Real quick, I just wanted to say a massive thank you to you all for all the support recently. The message is obviously getting across and it's being received really well. We're getting more and more listeners every week, which is really, really great to see. The numbers just keep going up and up. And this is, well, as far as I know, this is now the biggest cleaning business podcast in Australia. So really happy about that, really stoked. And I'm also really grateful for all the 5-star ratings you've been giving me on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. That is very much appreciated. If you haven't already, make sure you just give this podcast 5 stars on whatever platform you listen to it on, because that'll help it get pushed out to more people and hopefully help some more prospective cleaning business owners or existing business owners who want to grow their business. So that's what this podcast is for. I really just want to get the message out there, spread the word, and help other people because, like I always say, a rising tide raises all ships, and we're all in this together. So the title for this one today is called The Answer is Advertising, or Increase Your Output. And so I'm going to get into this now. I've done a lot of consulting calls recently inside the Booked Out Cleaners community. I do like every month I pick 3 people at the top of the leaderboard and I do like a consulting call with them. And I let them kind of tell me what some of their most pressing issues are in the business, and then I work with them on fixing them. And a lot of the time I'm able to just kind of repeat their questions back to them in a different way, and they kind of give themselves the answer, which is pretty interesting. And one of the big problems that most people have that they don't really realize is the problem is that they're not doing enough advertising. And some people don't even realize the problem at all is advertising. And so I'll get into that as well. But yeah, so I've done a lot of consulting calls recently, and the common thread between all of them is that they just need to increase their output for advertising. Some people need to change the inputs before they can increase and scale the output. And so in that case, if you have an advertising system and it's not the right message and it's being sent out to the wrong market, and you're doing crazy output, like you're doing 5 hours a day with this system, obviously that's not going to work. So the inputs need to be changed, like the platform it's being delivered on, the message, the imagery, the headline. You need to change all the inputs before you can scale the output, if that makes sense. So, but for most people, the simple answer is you just need to increase the volume at which you're currently advertising. And so when I get on calls with these cleaning business owners, when I really start to dig deep at what they're doing in their business, most of them, I'd say 90% of cleaning business owners out there are just devoting all their time to cleaning. They spend very little time actually growing the business. Sure, they do admin, like the necessary invoicing, emailing clients, whatever they need to do. But there is very little to no time at all spent on growing the business. And what grows the business besides advertising? Nothing. Advertising is the lifeblood of any business. And as soon as you stop advertising, as soon as you cut those systems off, that's when you're turning the life support of your business off as well. So most people just simply aren't advertising enough. And when I really start to dig deep at this stuff and I start to claw back behind the curtain of these people's businesses, I find that most of them are doing like little to no advertising. And the people who are advertising, they might only be doing like half an hour a week. And so they've got all these problems. They're like, oh, I can't get staff because I don't have enough work for them. And then when I do have staff, I'll have like one client cancel, and then that employee is unhappy because I can't give them work, and I just don't have enough work to go around because I don't have enough leads. And like, what do I do? I'm scared to bring more people on because I don't have the leads. And then it's this whole vicious cycle of like, you don't have enough leads, so you can't hire staff, and the staff you do have aren't happy, and there's no growth potential there because they don't have new customers coming on board. You just keep going around and around, and it's like this self-fulfilling flywheel. And it all stems from not having enough lead flow, not doing enough advertising. And so a lot of the time, or the majority of the time, when I talk to cleaning business owners, the number one problem they need to solve is advertising. And 90% of the time, all they need to do is advertise more. And so I've also dealt with quite a few people who say, like, oh, I'm doing quotes and I'm closing some, but the majority of them are turning me away. And I'll be like, okay, so how many quotes have you done? And they'll say, oh, like 5 in the last month or so. And I say, So I say, okay, so you've done 5 quotes, one has said yes, and the other 4 either ghosted you or turned you away. That's not bad. That's a 20% close rate. We can work with that. That's not terrible. Obviously you want to get it a lot higher, but it's not the worst. If all we do is increase your output by 10 times, so whatever advertising you're doing at the moment, just 10x it. If you then did, say, what's 10 times 20? You did 50 quotes. Okay, so instead of doing 5 quotes, you did 50 quotes, which is obviously a lot. But then you would also get 10 customers because you've 10x the output, and therefore you're 10xing the return and the outcome. And so just by increasing the volume and changing nothing else, you have 10x'd your results. And obviously you'd want to work backwards and start to optimize your quoting process and figure out why your conversion's so low. But a lot of the time you just need to do more. And 5 quotes is not a big enough sample size to get an idea of what you're doing wrong and where you need to improve on. It could just be you got a bad batch of people. Maybe after those 5 people, you'll start closing at a rate of like 80 or 90%, but you don't know that because you don't have the sample size. And so simply by increasing the volume of leads coming through, you're going to increase the results. You increase the amount of customers that you get, even if you close them at a very, very low percentage, which is unlikely. Most cleaning business owners, as soon as you get in front of a customer, they've already done most of the selling for themselves. If they're inviting you into their home, or if it's a commercial quote and they've invited you into their office and they're taking time out of their day and, like time that they're getting paid for, if they're taking time out of their day to show you around and let you give them a quote, it's because they're pretty much over the line already. They just need you to show up, look presentable, seem like you know what you're doing, and then give them the quote on time. And so usually the conversion rate's high, but anyway, let's just say it's not. Some people don't. Obviously, you can't know if you don't have a big enough sample size. So just by 10xing your output, you can 10x your results. And when I asked this particular person who had done 5 quotes and closed one, how much advertising she was doing, she said about half an hour a week. And I was like, okay, that's good. It's good and bad. It's bad because there's not enough advertising, but it's good because it means you've got so much room to work on that. You've got, how many hours in a week? 24 times 7. If you just take 10 hours out of your week and devote it purely to advertising, or not even 10 hours, just spend 5 hours a week advertising, you will multiply your outputs so much, and you'll multiply the results that you're getting right now. And then once you've increased the volume of the leads coming through, and therefore increase the volume of the quotes that you're doing, then you can start to gather data and extrapolate from that and figure out what you need to do to optimize your quoting process, how to talk to people, and therefore start to increase your conversion rate. And the more you do something, the better you get at it. So you're not going to do something again and again and get worse at it over time. I don't think there's anything you can do over and over again and get worse at. Repetition is what's going to get you over the line. It's not about going and spending $5,000 on like an advertising course or a sales course. It's just about doing it again and again. It's like you can watch 5,000 UFC fights, but then as soon as you step into an octagon or a ring and you try to fight someone, everything else goes out the window. You will learn. I'm using a fighting analogy because I don't know, that's just like something that I follow. But if you can watch 5,000 fights, but you will gain more experience, more knowledge, and more wisdom by simply doing like 25 fights, which is like, thousands of hours less than just watching it. And so the best way to learn something is by doing it. And therefore, if you increase the output of your advertising and increase the amount of quotes you're doing as a byproduct of that, then you get better at advertising, you get better at quoting. And because you've gotten better at advertising, you get more leads in. And because you've gotten better at quoting, because you've gotten better at advertising and you've done more quotes, then you get better at quoting. And then you start to convert more at a higher percentage. Does that make sense? The more you do something, the better you get at it. And so if you're only spending half an hour a week on advertising in your business, you're not going to be getting enough quotes to do, and therefore you're not getting your reps in. So you can't get better at quoting, and your conversion rate may be low. And even if it isn't, if you've got a high conversion rate, that's even better, because then if you just increase the amount of advertising you're doing, you're going to really, really multiply your profits because you can convert at a higher rate. And so, yeah, most people simply aren't doing enough. If you're not spending at least 5 hours a week on purely advertising your business, getting the word out there, sending flyers out, running Facebook ads, doing whatever it is that it takes to get your business out there and in front of people, you're not doing enough, and your business is going to shrink, if not just stay completely stagnant. So, and like, it's hard, and people say it's hard. They're like, I can't take a day off from my business to grow it because I need the money from it to like sustain my lifestyle or whatever, or I don't want to go backwards. Like, I don't want to lose a couple $100 because I've dropped one day a week of work. And it's like, it is hard, but choose your hard. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to swap out. Like people will say, it's hard to swap one day of my working week to devote just to admin or marketing work. It's like, yes, but it's also hard being stuck like a hamster in a wheel, doing the same thing every week and making mediocre money. You know, like the definition of insanity is doing the exact same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. It's like, that's what most business owners do, right? So an example of this is you clean for 40 hours a week and bring in, let's just say $2,000 of revenue, but you have no time to work on growing the business, and therefore growth remains stagnant. And so 12 months later, you're still doing about 2K revenue a week. You maybe went forwards or backwards, but you're probably hovering around that mark still, because you've maximized your time allocation and it's all going towards cleaning, and none of it's going towards growing or optimizing the business. And so you're fearful of dropping that one day a week of work, which is 1/5 or 20% of your total income, which sounds like a lot. That sounds like a scary number. And you're scared of losing that due to the short-term loss. But if you just spend one whole day a week advertising, which could be 5, 8, 10 hours, sure, you're going to lose $400 a week or 20% of your income in the short term, but long term, your output will result in disproportionate returns compared to if you did nothing, and you'll be better off for it. Okay, so you need to get out of this scarcity mindset of like, oh, I can't spend any time growing the business because I need to be working in it and making money. It's like, if you can just delay gratification short term, you can experience disproportionate returns long term, because the work that you put in now is going to compound and pay dividends later on. It's like, most of the work that I did in my business ever, like I've had my business for 5 years, most of the work that I put into the business was in the first 12 months. And I put in a lot of work. I worked really, really hard, probably for 2 years. But now, like these days, I don't do much at all. The business grows on its own. But it's because of all those things I did in the first 12 to 24 months. Whereas most people are scared to do that because of the reasons I just talked about. They don't want to lose a bit of income short term for a delayed gratification long term. And so, yeah, long term, you experience disproportionate returns based on the actions that you execute on short term. And again, if you may need to change your inputs before you can scale your outputs. So for that, but like most people aren't even doing any advertising at all. So just simply doing more advertising, whatever it may be, like flyer drops, Facebook group posts, or Google ads, you're going to experience results. It's that simple. Most people just build the business and think that people are going to come. It's like, that's what most restaurants do. It's what most cafes do. They build a cafe or a restaurant because the guy, he's a good chef and he likes food, and he's like, I'll just make good food and I'll build this place and people will come because the food's good. It's like, no. Same thing with cleaning. People think they launch a cleaning business, they put a post out on Facebook, they say, I'm here, I'm good at what I do. If you need your house cleaned, come find me. And like every now and then they might post in a Facebook group and they get a couple customers here and there, and it trickles through, but they can't keep up with their churn. So like if you lose one customer a month and you only put one customer on every month, then you're never growing. So you need to outpace your churn. And it gets more and more important the bigger you get. So like in my business, we've got hundreds and hundreds of customers, recurring customers, and we churn like 8 to 10 a month, but we're also adding on about 20 to 30 a month. So we're way outpacing our churn. Most people on their own aren't, because they devote no time out of their week to growing their business. It's all just spent on running the business, and they're like that hamster in the wheel, just over and over again. And it's this vicious cycle that they can't break out of, and it's due to having a scarcity mindset. And so, yeah, that's all you have to do. You just have to increase the volume of the advertising you're doing. It's a very, very simple thing, but most people just can't seem to wrap their head around it. And it's like the people that do, the people that can delay gratification and understand why they need to do it and understand what the potential result could be, they're the people who do well. And like, I was in a pretty privileged position when I started, because I was young. I didn't have people to feed. I didn't pay rent because I was living with my grandparents at the time. And so, yeah, I was in a privileged position and I could do this, and I didn't have to have a scarcity mindset, but I still would have achieved the same success that I have now. It's just that my timeline would have been extended. So instead of achieving success in a year, it may have taken me 2 years. But the point is, I would have still achieved the same result. It's like everyone likes to make excuses for their own inability to achieve what they want to do. It's like they blame external circumstances, and then other people around them will like validate that. They'll be like, "Oh, you work so hard. It's not your fault. It's just like the timing's wrong. The market's not good. There's a recession." It's like people love to just blame external factors for what's going on in their business. And sometimes the answer is so simple and it's right there in front of you. And I tell people this sometimes. I'll get on calls with people and I'll tell them to just simply advertise more, just simply do more. And I'll check in on them in like a couple of weeks or a couple of months, and some of them just like close their business. Some of them clearly haven't done any more than what they were doing before. And it's like, yeah, there you go. So you want to create that virtuous cycle by advertising more. It's the vicious cycle where, charging low prices because you have that scarcity mindset and you don't want to waste precious leads. Therefore, you can't get enough work for staff and therefore can't predictably hire. You just need to advertise more. And that's the one big domino that knocks down all these other dominoes. And the most valuable asset of any business is its marketing system. It's the marketing assets. It's the advertising system. If you're selling a business or if you're buying a business, the first thing anyone would look at is how that business gets customers. And if a business can't predictably get customers, if it doesn't have a system for predictably getting customers, then there is no tangible value in that business, especially in cleaning where a lot of the value is built on goodwill. You need to have a predictable system for creating that goodwill and bringing it into your ecosystem. Okay. And so the day your business stops advertising, it's the day you turn off its life support. And for most people, they never even start advertising. They never even do the fundamental stuff. They don't do what it takes in order to get to where they want to be. And so for you, I can almost guarantee that you're not doing enough advertising. And a lot of the problems that you have will be related to money. And if you need more money, you need to advertise more. Okay. And things like, increasing your prices, people are scared to do that. The reason people are scared to increase their prices is because they don't have enough volume. If they lose 2 customers, they will be freaking the heck out because they don't have a way of bringing in more and more customers on a predictable and regular basis to keep up with that sort of churn. So if you simply increase the volume, you see how many different problems as a byproduct of that increase in volume are solved. You see how that sort of works? And it's impossible for me to tell you what exactly you need to be doing in your advertising. There's a million ways to skin a cat. There's so many ways you can advertise. Like I said, you can do flyers, you can do Facebook ads, you can do Facebook group posts. You can look for people on Facebook who are asking for a cleaner and comment on there. You can have a referral system. You can do Google ads. You can do SEO. You can do joint ventures and competitions. So many different things you can do. It's almost like cutting through the white noise and figuring out what you really need to do and what is going to give you the biggest returns based on the allocation of time that you put in. And so this is another thing. I see people doing all these different things. I see a few people who, there's one person in particular I've seen who is doing way, way too many different things. And like, you've only got so many hours in your week, especially if you're already a busy business owner doing all these different things and wearing all the hats. You need to pick the right vehicle to be advertising in. And so like, there's people who are just doing the most outrageous things. I'm not going to say specifically because some people listen to this and I don't want to call you out on here, but like, it's very, very simple to get cleaning clients. It's probably like the easiest sort of sell that you could do. And so you don't want to overcomplicate the marketing, at least not now. You know, you can do it later on once you've got lots of data that you can extrapolate from, and you've got a track record and you've got lots of statistics and analytics that you can run through. But in the meantime, keep it very simple. Don't rely on one form of marketing, but don't try to do too many different things. Just pick a few things that work. Do flyers, run your Facebook ads, run your Google ads. These things are guaranteed and have a history of working for other people. So why wouldn't it work for you? Don't try to reinvent the wheel. Don't try to make a new mousetrap. Don't try to do all these new things that no one's ever done before because you have this big, bright idea that it's going to work for you. Just replicate the success of other people by doing similar things to them. Okay, so like I built my business on top of Google advertising and Facebook advertising. Obviously, later on, we expanded our horizon and all the different avenues and the channels that we market through. But early on, I focused 100% of my time into Facebook and Google. And long term, that's paid off in dividends. So don't try to do too many different things, but don't try to just do one thing. You want to find a few things that you can do consistently that you know that you can be disciplined enough to do routinely, like every day or a certain amount of hours that you can set aside a week. Something that is measurable, something that you have a mechanism for collecting data from. Like if you're running flyers, you want to make sure you know if you get customers, which flyers they're coming from, especially if you run lots of different flyers. If you run Facebook ads, you want to make sure your Facebook pixel is set up and you want to make sure you know where all the different traffic is going, who's clicking where, who's coming through. And then based on the results of these outputs, then you can go back and reverse engineer and work backwards and figure out, okay, Facebook's working really, really well. So let's pump that with more money. Google's not working so well, so maybe I need to optimize some stuff there. And like flyers aren't working, so we just need to completely revamp this, figure out what's not working, change the headline, change the offer, change the suburbs we're advertising in, and see how that goes. And so that's what I mean by changing the inputs. And this is really, really crucial short term because you've only got so many hours that you can allocate to advertising, especially when you don't have a lot of resources like I do. I've got managers, I've got assistants, I've got VAs, I've got people who can do my advertising for me. Early on, you don't have that. So number one, just increase the volume of whatever you're doing. I guarantee, I will bet the farm on it, you are not doing enough advertising in your business now. And I hope this is kind of making you realize that. So whatever output you're doing, whatever time allocation you have spent on advertising, you need to, at bare minimum, 5x it. If you can, ideally, you want to 10x it because you're going to 10x the results you get. And if you can do that, then you've got more lead flow. So the business has more lifeblood flowing through it. And therefore, you have more resources at your disposal in order to grow. You've got more customers, so you can hire more staff and you can increase your prices because you have this volume of leads coming through where you can predictably keep up with your churn and outpace it. And so that is key. Increase the volume and then start to change the inputs so that your outputs can be optimized. But again, and I can't stress this enough, don't get paralyzed by all the different things out there and don't get overwhelmed with all these things and overthink what you need to do. Just start doing more. And once you get feedback, once you initiate that feedback loop of you do something and you get a result or you don't get a result, then you can start to figure out what works, what doesn't work, and you get an idea of what things you need to allocate more time into. And then you can work backwards and you can change the inputs of your advertising and then scale hard. Because once you find something that works for you, you want to just go all in on that, spend as much time as you can on it, increase the ad spend, increase the time spent doing it, And then you've really got a business. Then you've really got something that's going to snowball and go all the way to the moon. Okay, but it all starts with increasing the output. And so 3 things I can recommend that it's a surefire way for you to get customers and grow the business. Flyers, that's probably the easiest thing you can do. Okay, spend like 5 hours a week just handing out flyers. You can do 100 flyers an hour pretty easily. So that's 500 flyers a week at a 1% conversion rate, which is pretty standard for doing flyers. That's 5 new customers a week, right? So like, how different would your business be if you had 5 extra customers a week? That would be amazing even for us. And we've got a 7-figure business. So imagine what that could do for you if you got 5 new customers a week. Like if you think about lifetime value, that could be $25,000 a year in revenue every single week. Okay. So, and those aren't outlandish numbers. That's just a very, very conservative, I wouldn't even say average number for doing flyers. If you just did 200 flyers a week and got 2 extra customers a week, how would that change your business? And something I always like to ask people if I'm on like a consulting call with them is, what would you do if I opened up business next door to you in whatever area you're operating in? And people are like, oh, yeah, like if I came into your sandpit and I started playing, I would quickly take a lot of business away from you, or at least I would take a lot of the available business off the table. Because one thing I do that I do very well is I just advertise like crazy. I know that the majority of my time as a business owner needs to be spent on creating and executing on marketing systems. And even at a higher level, advertising is still the key. And so very early on, you need to realize that your role as the business owner is not to be doing cleaning 90% of the time. You don't want to be doing the work. Sure, the work is what gives you money. You clean a house and you get paid, but you need to increase the volume of your advertising so you can get lots and lots of customers through and then start growing a business. Because without that, you can't do anything and you're just that hamster stuck in that wheel. And so just think about it. What would you do if I opened up a business in your area and you were suddenly competing with me? How differently would you act? What things would you do differently in your business in order to keep up with someone like me? And the reason people get like scared, or not scared, but like they start to think, if I ask that question of what would you do if I came into your market and started running my business there, the reason it gets them thinking and the reason it can strike a bit of fear into people is because they think I'm going to take all the business. And the reason I'm going to take all the business is because I advertise, right? That's all it is. That is the key. That is the big domino that knocks down all the other dominoes, advertising. And so if you're listening to this, I really, really want you to look at your time allocation. Where are you allocating all your hours? If it's more than 70% cleaning, you need to step back and assume the role of a business owner and as an operator, and not just a technician who does cleaning all the time, because your business will never grow and you'll be stuck in that cycle forever. So, and I know it's hard, but like I said, choose your hard. Yes, it's hard to drop a day of work and sacrifice income in the short term, but it's also hard staying in that cycle forever. And so choose your hard. Do you want to grow a business, or do you just want to have a job that pays you pretty well? Most people that are in business now, look, they're just not really cut out for it. It's plain and simple. A lot of people just aren't cut out for it. And the main reason for that is they have that scarcity mindset where a lot of people will go from a job, which is very stable. You get the same paycheck every week. And then they go into a business and like they have a good run at the start and they get a few customers and they earn, $20, $30 more per hour than their previous job. And they're like, oh, this is great. And so they treat it like a job. They expect the paycheck to be the same every week. But if they lose a little bit, they start freaking out like their world's ending. And it's like that scarcity mindset is not going to get you anywhere in business. You need to have an abundance mindset. You need to open up your mind to the possibility of what growing a real business is like. And that starts with you stepping back out of the business and assuming the role as an operator and as a true business owner. And that means working on the business, growing the business. And the North Star here is that you just want to advertise more. That should be your primary goal. I don't care what stage you are in your business and what stage you're at. You just need to make that your North Star that you're always going towards. You need to advertise more. You need to just increase the volume. I can't stress this enough. Just need to do more. It is that simple. So many problems will be solved as a byproduct of you just doing more advertising. Cleaning 40, 50 hours a week is not going to grow your business. It's not going to serve you in any way. Sure, you might earn a pretty good income, but you're going to get burned out if you're not already burnt out now. Like, I know what it's like. I used to clean 15 hours a day and then go home and spend like 2 or 3 hours working on the business and growing it. Some days I would work for 20 to 22 hours and I'll get 2 hours of sleep. I know what it's like. And I know that that is not sustainable long term. And so if you're hearing this early enough and you're not quite at that stage where you hate your business and you want to get out of it, use this as like a wake up call or a warning sign that you should delay gratification in the short term for long-term gain. And by that, I mean you need to step out and really assume that role as a business owner and start to grow the business and work on your inputs and outputs. Okay, so that is paramount to your success. Once you understand that and once you drop that scarcity mindset and put that abundance mindset on, that's when things really start to shift. That's when the pendulum starts swinging the other way. Okay, so that is the key. If I get on a consulting call with you, if you pay me hundreds of dollars for like an hour of my time, that's pretty much all I'm going to tell you. I'm just going to tell you to advertise more. I'm going to tell you to spend less time cleaning, most likely. I'm going to tell you to spend more time working on the business and growing it, because that's how you create a real business. And like, it's hard and you might have to sacrifice things. You might have to sacrifice a bit of time with loved ones or family, and you might be put under a lot of pressure. But pressure, when you're under pressure, that's when you do the best work. That's when you get the best results. You know, pressure makes diamonds. Like when you're under the pump and if you know you need to get something done, that's when the best work tends to get done. And it's all about increasing your reps. When you increase your reps, you not only build more, like if you're in the gym and you're increasing your reps, so you're going to build more muscle. It's like the same in business. If you increase the amount of reps you're doing in advertising, not only are you going to build more of a client base, but you're going to get better at advertising. So therefore you get more people coming through. And then in extension to that, you get better at quoting because you've got more customers coming through. And it's just this virtuous cycle, but it all traces back to advertising. So that was the point of this episode. It's a very big point that I really want to drive home. So I hope this has kind of been a bit of a wake up call to some of the business owners out there. It really is the answer to the majority of your problems, if not all of them right now. So increase your outputs. Don't worry about the inputs so much, but just increase the volume of the advertising you're doing at the moment. Most people spend little to no time every week advertising. Most people, like if they're lucky, they'll spend half an hour actually advertising. And I don't mean just like handing out business cards to people who ask for them and like putting up a post on Facebook. I mean really advertising and really doing outreach. So spend at least 5 to 10 hours a week advertising. And then once you start to see results from that, and once you build that volume, then you can extrapolate from that data. You can go through those analytics, find out what's working and what's not. And then you can start to work backwards and change the inputs and change the methods at which you advertise. And so once you do that, the business starts to grow, and then you really do have a real business and not just a job that you own. Okay, so that's just something I wanted to get out there. I've done so many consulting calls now. I've spoken to so many different business owners, and that is the one common thread with everyone. They're just not doing enough advertising. It is that simple. And yeah, sometimes the answer is directly in front of you. A lot of the time, we just don't want to believe that's the case. We like to blame other external circumstances. We want to blame the fact that we can't take time away from the business, from working in it because we need the money or whatever it may be. But the sooner you walk away from that mindset and start to look at things through a different lens, the sooner you get back on the right track that you need to be on. So that's all I wanted to leave you with. I hope you found that insightful. I hope it was a bit of a wake-up call to some of you. And again, I say all of this in good faith. I really want to spread the word and help people. So like if you think I'm barking at you saying that you just need to advertise more and I'm being insensitive, I understand how that can come across, but I really am just trying to spread the word and help. So if you did find this helpful, again, I would really appreciate if you could leave a 5-star rating on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to this on. Leave a review, like say what you like about the podcast, maybe share like an experience or a tidbit that you've taken and implemented in your own business and it's helped you, because that's going to help other people when they see that and bring them in to our world. So the podcast is growing, really, really amazing. I love that. The numbers are going up every week, and it's like, it's starting to compound, which is like, I say that with everything. Same with advertising, we're going back to advertising again. If you advertise more and more, your advertising begins to compound and it gets better and better over time, because like with this podcast, I do it enough to the point where I get better at it. I tell that to everyone. It's like the more you do something, the better you get at doing the thing. And the results you get from doing the thing are massively increased. And eventually it becomes disproportionately increased. And it's going to be the same with your advertising. If you just get the reps in, if you do it over and over again, you're going to get better at advertising. So you get more customers and you get better at dealing with those customers and closing people because you've increased the volume. So that's really all it is. And so yeah, if you found this podcast helpful, if you enjoyed it, please leave a 5-star rating. I'd really appreciate that. And I'll talk to you again soon. Thanks for listening to another episode of Self Made. Until next time.